And then the third one is mental abuse, and mental abuse has to do with my mind. And why? Because sometimes the subtle line between the mental and emotional abuse is a very thin line. Because of course you'll keep on saying when the mental health is affected, which most of the times mental health refers to depression, then it means that it's affecting me emotionally. But sometimes those two places can hold a very different space. Mental abuse looks like this. Every time I associate with you, I feel stupid, I feel foolish, I feel unintelligent, I feel, just feel like you're so dumb. And you keep on getting those messages so many times. For example, in a workplace, how does it play out? You can have a boss who keeps on making you feel like you can never do that because maybe you're not as learned or you don't have experience. You cannot go there because that is not your level. This is not your level. Like there are those demarcations that are unspoken or sometimes spoken, but subtly they make you feel inferior mentally. And sometimes when it is mentally abusive, there's nothing you can do to get out of it because it's up to the other person's judgment of who you are and what your capacity and what your probably your mental space looks like. Like they get to define that, which is now the abuse part of it. And of course, even in relationships, I don't know, this word keeps on going around called gaslighting, where you make me feel like I'm responsible for the negative emotions that I'm feeling. And mental abuse has to do with your logic, with your reasoning, with your imagination. Like it just keeps on playing games in those places. And most of the times, people who are mentally abusive, they do a lot of mind games where you'll keep on doubting yourself, you start wondering, and it can really drive you into a deep place that is very destructive because over time, you will find yourself living in irrational beliefs and also having, I would say you also have probably thoughts that are not even real, they're not realistic, but those beliefs that you keep on developing about yourself, or sometimes how you reason is also irrational. It's because of just an exposure, a repetitive exposure to a space that is mentally abusive. And so if you have anyone that makes you feel stupid, makes you feel not so intelligent, they make fun of what you know or what you think, or like you just feel minimized around them. You feel like a nobody around them. That is how mental abuse feels like. And of course, it's different from emotional abuse from those two explanations. So just notice that subtle boundary between the two. And then number 4 is social abuse. In social abuse, you're as good as your social network. Whatever you're bringing on the table socially, that is all you're good at. And I've seen so many friends, especially friends who are bubbly, friends who are exciting, friends who just show up in a way that really brings warmth into the room. They're the life of the party. Most of the times, people who have that nature will subtly get into spaces of social abuse because they are good for the looks. Even people who are pretty sometimes, you are a trophy person, just show you off, and all the cards will play to my favor. And how it's social abuse, it's because every transaction we make, I am the currency. And so the social abuser benefits from who I am. And how you'll also know it's because whenever I am not transacting, I'm useless. I've seen friends who only call them when they have these parties or they want them to go out together. I want you to accompany me to this event or this other place. But those times that you're alone, you're struggling, you're at home alone, you are useless to them. And social abuse plays out like that. And so just looking at your circles, who do you feel like whenever you're around them, you actually feel like they're using you, how they will engage, the kind of remarks they'll make about you, the way they'll make you feel like you're at their service. You're just a dispensable asset to them and they brought you here because of their own gain. And you can keep on feeling that messaging through how they treat you and how they communicate to you and how they also communicate to others. And it's very important to realize social abuse is a very subtle space. It may be your networks, probably because of it can be your personality that is being abused. It can be your networks that is being abused because you are resourceful in how you interact with people. It can also be your reputation because of where you're coming from or probably just what you've built up for yourself, Like probably because you're a doctor, so you make me look good as much as me and books are in a struggling relationship. So just keep on noting that. And then, how many have we gone through? So we've gone through physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, social abuse. Number 5, financial abuse. And financial abuse is just an inversion of the currency is what's in your pocket. And so all my relationships are because of my financial net worth. And I think you can really detect that from the story of Job when he says, like everybody used to worship me, even the small kids and everybody in the market used to talk about me. But when his fortunes change, he has no one. He has no one. Even the wife who probably should have done the for better or for worse leaves him. And he's like, curse your God and die. And then all his children are no longer there. And that is when you actually realize, I've actually been showing up for people in a way that I thought was enabling, but actually it was a disadvantage to me. And how do you test financial abuse? Just ask yourself, if today you are not going to put anything on the table, who will be on your side? Because every person who has been taking advantage of you and leveraging on what you have, it's not just because of who you are, but it's because of what you bring on the table. And authentic friendships and relationships should be able to give you that privilege of, I am fully known and I'm fully loved, even when I'm bringing nothing on the table. And that should not be my identity and the trading factor in my relationship. I should love people who love me unconditionally, even when I don't show up for them in a way that is financially beneficial. And then finally, spiritual abuse. And spiritual abuse has to do with just this space where God is such a mystery and only a few people can figure him out. Many people have grown up in spiritual abuse where you've seen probably the name of God used, thrown around. You're no longer even sure who this God is. And when you think about the spiritual abuse, it's the space where people who are representing God have actually misrepresented him in a way that hurt me or probably hurt people that I loved. And then I grow up into that space as a space that is hurtful. And one of the things that I always encourage everyone when you think about struggling with spiritual abuse, it's to just remind myself that I need to find out who God is for myself. Everybody needs to take a journey for themselves to authenticate that God space, because it's not enough for other people to transact on my behalf. And when you think about spiritual abuse, most of the times it's people who have perpetrated injustices. They've done so many things, bad things, in the name of God. I remember growing up in this environment where we had prophets who used to visit our home. And of course, sometimes the demands they will make and probably the requirements they had of what you need to do so that God can accept us, they look so unattainable. And I remember as a teenager really growing up in this space of resenting God. I was just like, this guy is impossible. He's so demanding. Until one day in my own personal quest, I just came to a place of conclusion that God is not what everyone else said. And I love just having this analogy. If you were going to church and you saw the cathedral windows where the light comes in, but there is no sight. And sometimes that becomes a safe place to relate with God, or we're just in a casual relationship because I'm feeling like, I don't want too much. Just show up enough, go to church enough, read the Bible enough, just enough to get along. But sometimes we need to shatter through those cathedral glasses so that we can be able to see him, behold him. And we come to a place where Job says, I used to hear about you, but now I see you. And that is a place of spiritual insight and revelation. And so if you've gone through spiritual abuse, just go easy on yourself. I know God becomes a difficult space to discuss, and whenever our guys are going through the programs we offer and we're rating ourselves on where we are spiritually, many people just feel like that is a space I don't like exploring. And if that is where you are, it's fine. Just keep on taking this journey, but always remind yourself that God is accessible to me and I don't have to allow myself and allow probably my perception of God to be clouded by other people's misrepresentation of God. Okay? And so those are the 6 things you need to think about in the context of abuse. And I'm happy to probably engage with you on which kind of abuse is most familiar to you, which also sounded strange. You're like, I didn't know there was such a form of abuse. Yeah, let's talk. And until the next one, my name is Paps Wanyugi. I'm your partner in creating the life we desire and deserve. Please like, share, spread the word and spread the love around. And we'll see you in the next one. Ciao.